question, and it's one that it's a tactical issue, and it's one actually that Democrats raise because they want to crush the impeachment movement. So they say, gee, if we impeach Bush, we get Cheney. How can you do that? The truth is that Cheney, in this particular presidency, is more so than it has this special case where everybody knows that Cheney is the real president. That the corollary to the fact that Cheney's the real president is that he's the real criminal, and that if you start the investigations, the hearings into a Bush impeachment, say start with impeaching Bush. When you start those hearings, it's going to become very apparent from the testimony that Cheney's the criminal.
Right.
Okay, and Cheney doesn't even have the protection against indictment. So you quickly have the calls for a independent prosecutor. You quickly have indictments, or what you have is Cheney having to say he felt chest pains, or the battery was running low, and you have to go, and he'd be out. And the other dynamic to that is that Republicans themselves would not want to go into 2008 November with Cheney as their standard bearer, as the titular head of the party. That would be a disaster to them. This is a guy with 19% popularity rating.
Right.
So even the party power brokers of the Republican Party would push Cheney out because they wouldn't want that. They wouldn't want the whole party going into the election with him as the figurehead.
Right.
So what I'm saying is Cheney would be gone one way or the other if Bush were going down. Right? But the other point I was making was that it isn't so important who goes or whether anybody goes, because the important thing is this investigation. The important thing is they bear the crimes of this investigation, which can be impeachment hearings and can't be other kind of hearings. And one of the legal points about impeachment is that Bush is making the arguments of national security and executive privilege, which don't hold up under impeachment. Those same arguments don't hold because it's about those crimes, so you can't claim executive privilege. So most of the reasons that they prevent people from testifying stuff would not stand. So I just don't think it's an issue.
Okay.
And even if you went the other way, if you went for Cheney, the same thing would hold because you'd be exposing the crimes, and it doesn't matter whether you ever get to Bush.
Right. Well, I want to go to the next part there. Impeachment is part of what we need, but I think removal from office is the other part that we need. Because I'm interested in, my slogan is Nancy Pelosi for president in 2007. And a lot of us may have an attitude about Nancy Pelosi. She's a conventional politician. I got that. Nonetheless, she'd be an advance over the current characters we have in the Oval Office right now, and she might keep Hillary from being visited upon us if there is another election.
This is tactics again. Look, let's put it this way: if we were to get to the point where where the hearings happened and the hearings went the way I would think they would go, and the criminality was exposed to such an extent that people said these guys really do have to go, and where Republicans would say we got to throw these guys overboard because they're dragging us down,
party
and
will never survive.
And the party won't survive this. If that were to happen, which was what the situation was with Nixon, then the drawback is that a lot of Republicans in the Senate would say, but we're not going to allow Nancy Pelosi to be president. And so I think the logical thing that you would see happen is what happened with, we didn't want to have Tip O'Neill president either. I think it was Tip O'Neill, right?
Yes.
Under Nixon. So what happens is you basically remove the vice president first, or Nancy Pelosi would have to disavow being. She doesn't have to accept being president, and so you take her out of the picture. I think what they've done with the Nixon thing was they basically set the precedent. Ford would have been the next person had the Republicans been the majority in the House, because he was the minority leader. Yeah. So what they would do is they pick somebody who, it has to have Senate approval. So Bush would have to pick somebody to replace Cheney who would be acceptable to the Democratic Senate. Maybe it would be Warner or somebody like that.
So you don't think that my my little slogan is actionable, that you
I don't
might
think
get...
you'll ever see Nancy Pelosi make
So you
that.
might get the Republicans in the Senate to vote to remove from office Cheney and or Bush. They might do that or save the Republican Party,
Right.
but you wouldn't get them to approve Nancy Pelosi as
Yeah,
president.
there'd be some kind of a deal so that it would be someone who would probably not run for office or who wouldn't be a good candidate for office, like Senator Warner or somebody like that.
So it wouldn't come back in later.
But I think that that's way beyond, the point. The real point is to get the hearings, and what I would like that, you're really missing a big thing, and that's what's happening.
what we have.
And whether it'll succeed, I don't know, but it certainly is a big thing, and with no media coverage, not a single editorial for impeachment, we've got 54% of the American public saying that the president impeached, and a poll, like not a scientific poll, but MSNBC is 89%. I think that's astonishing.
Right, it's really extraordinary. I'm always, of course, my line is just imagine what would happen if we did put our own TV on. That's my theme here. This isn't about me, but if we did, just what you said, Dave, it's really extraordinary that the public understands that the war in Iraq is, are you kidding, it's pathetic. They doubt the 9/11 official story, and they overwhelmingly support impeachment without any media help at all about that. I mean, none. It's not mentioned on TV. It's not in the big newspapers at all, and yet they're there. So imagine if we were putting our case out on TV to the mass public, the difference, how mobilizing that could be.
Look, I've been on right-wing television. One of the nice things about those book is you get invited to these really right-wing shows, and they'd say, they come on really negative, and the thing that I've said is, listen, the president is saying that he's the commander-in-chief in time of war, so he doesn't have to obey laws passed by the Congress. Do you want Hillary Clinton to do that and say that's what presidents do? And they go, whoa, no.
No.
This is not a Democrat-Republican thing. It's not. It's about, and again, the Constitution is a flawed document, I agree, but on the other hand, it's pretty good. And it was pretty cleverly designed to have competing powers that restrict each other, and that's being completely undermined right now. And when you point that out to conservatives and you say, do you really want the next president, if it's Barack Obama or Hillary Clinton, to take the power they have, which they're not going to give up. Nobody gives up power,
right.
And they no longer have to obey laws passed by the Congress, which might be a Republican Congress in the second term, or the second or 2 years down the road. That's pretty historically common. Do you want that? And they freak out. They don't want that. So I think that you can go way beyond Democrats with impeachment. You can talk to real people about a real issue, and you can get support for this.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you, Dave. All right, well, we got our own little window here. We don't need to have another any further than that. That's good. We got to bring up our last guest. Can you stand to surrender your chairs? You guys are getting your musical chairs over there. All right. Our final panelist here is Webster Tarpley. Come on.
Yo, Dave.
How you doing? I'm doing good, man.
I brought you my 4th edition.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah? Oh, really? It doesn't change. It's just...
It's always changing.
Really, Bobby?
It's moving target. Keep you guessing.
Well, I should hold this up. Well, I'll get this just a second. Okay, let me read you this man we have here with us.
Let's see who I am today.
Right. Webster Tarpley got his first lessons in state-sponsored false flag terrorism when he was commissioned to report on the kidnapping and murder of Italian Prime Minister Aldo Moro in 1978. Moro's assassination was, Mr. Tarpley discovered, a false flag operation carried out by the NATO-sponsored Operation Gladio to evoke fear for political purposes, a reoccurring theme. Webster Tarpley is considered by many to be the foremost expert on the deep politics of the Anglo-American factions behind the attacks of 9/11. His book, Synthetic Terror, Made in USA, is the top-selling book on the events of 9/11. I'm going to hold this up so you see it. I had Webster, we did it's kind of a version of this at a 9/11 conference, and his 3 minutes on what actually happened in 9/11 was so mind-bogglingly brilliant. We took another 10 minutes to deconstruct the parts of it, because it was so good and so deep, this guy. So, recommend it.